Hey guys, I'm an Indian and I am on a journey to learn more about Indonesia. And I recently heard that Indonesia is making a completely new capital city. Currently, Jakarta is the capital, but I wanted to see how this project looks like. And the video I'll be reacting to is from Mega Projects. This is a big channel. What's happening with Indonesia's new capital city? Let's check it out. The link to the original video will be in the description below. Make sure to support the original creator.
Indonesia is building a brand new capital city, not expanding Jakarta, not reforming it, they're completely replacing it. Jakarta, a sprawling megacity home to over 30 million people,
That is crazy.
sinking, quite literally. Over 40% of the city already lies below sea level, and the situation is getting worse every single year. In response, the government is embracing an entirely new solution. Enter Nusantara, a $30 billion mega project emerging in the heart of Borneo's
$30 billion project.
jungle. After years of planning, this ambitious project is finally beginning to take shape. However, behind
It
the
is
headlines
stunning.
of
I just
this
wanted to
ambitious
go back and appreciate the beauty. This doesn't even look real. The mix of greenery and well-planned city looks amazing.
project is finally beginning to take shape. With Jakarta still at the helm of the country, many are left wondering, what exactly is going on with Nusantara capital city? Can this mega project live up to its bold ambitions, or has it just become a high-stakes miscalculation? Well, to understand why all eyes are on Nusantara, we first have to examine why Indonesia is moving its entire capital in the first place. Today's video is brought to you by Squarespace.
I'm going to skip this sponsored portion.
Why move the capital? You see, every year, Jakarta sinks deeper below sea level at a rate of roughly 7.5 centimeters annually in some areas. This alarming drop is largely due to decades of groundwater extraction that has caused the earth beneath the city to collapse inward. Combined with rising sea levels and poor drainage, experts predict that by 2050, nearly 95% of North Jakarta could be permanently underwater. But water
90%.
isn't Jakarta's only problem. It's also one of the most traffic-congested cities on the planet. Air pollution routinely exceeds safe limits, infrastructure is crumbling, and flooding occurs frequently. With more than 10 million people crowded.
Jakarta sounds like very similar to Mumbai, the city where I live. We have similar problems like heavy traffic congestion, air pollution. I think Mumbai's air pollution is way worse than Jakarta's. Jakarta seems much cleaner than Mumbai, but yeah, I think they have similar problems, these two cities, but different magnitudes.
Crowded into the city centre alone, the government's ability to address these issues is stretched beyond its capacity. For years, presidents have tossed around the idea of moving the capital. But in 2019, President Joko Widodo, famously known as Jokowi, made it official. Jakarta will remain Indonesia's commercial centre, while the government itself relocates. This includes entire ministries, departments, and even the presidential palace. And the new capital? It's not going to be built nearby. Instead, it's going to emerge about 1,200 kilometers away on the island of Borneo. In
Okay,
the province
completely different
east of
island.
Kalimantan. The city will be called Nusantara, an old Javanese word that loosely translates as outer islands. This name is a symbolic nod to Indonesia's identity as a nation made up of more than 17,000 islands. Symbolism wasn't the only reason for choosing this site. It's located away from major natural disaster zones, making it safer from tsunamis and earthquakes, and it sits near the city of Balikpapan. With its decent infrastructure and a port capable of supporting the enormous logistical needs of a capital in progress, the area meets both practical and symbolic criteria. In Jokowi's words, this was a chance to fix decades of imbalance and redistribute opportunities and resources from overcrowded, overdeveloped Java to the rest of the country. It was also a chance to do something bold, something that no one would forget. Build a city from scratch in the jungle. Location and scale. Nusantara is being built in an area known for its dense rainforests and endangered wildlife. It sits between the districts of North Penanjampasa and Kutai Kartanggara and is surrounded by jungle, hills, rivers, and scattered rural villages. But here's where it gets really wild. The total area allocated for Nusantara is over 2,500 square kilometers. That's more than 4 times the size of Jakarta and almost 3 times the landmass of Singapore.
That is crazy.
Not all of that is going to be transformed into city blocks and skyscrapers. The plan is to develop the area in layers. At the heart of it all is the core government area, which spans about 6,000 hectares and will house the presidential palace, ministries, parliament, and key infrastructure. Surrounding that is the capital city zone, which covers around 56,000 hectares. This area will feature housing, business districts, schools, and hospitals, forming an urban centre expected to host a population of 1.9 million people by 2045. Then there's the Greater Nusantara area, stretching across hundreds of thousands of hectares with designated zones for agriculture, forests,
Okay.
industry, and conservation. Now, to put that in perspective, you could fit all of Paris, London, and Manhattan into Nusantara's development area and still have room for a smallish national park. Yet the vision isn't solely about constructing a big city. It's about creating a capital that doesn't choke on smog, doesn't flood every year, and runs on power from the sun, the wind, instead of relying on coal.
Makes sense. That seems like a good idea.
Nusantara, the smart forest city. Nusantara is being framed as a city of the future, a blueprint for how humanity might live more responsibly, more cleanly, and perhaps even more happily. According to official planning documents, up to 65% of Nusantara will be green space, comprising conserved forests, mangrove buffer zones, and rewilded terrain. Picture this.
If this comes into reality, it would be probably the most beautiful capital in the world.
Low-rise buildings nestled among canopies, solar panels glinting on rooftops, electric buses humming along tree-lined boulevards, sidewalks, bike paths, underground trash systems, smart lighting and artificial intelligence managing traffic, energy use and water flow in real time, all form a part of this vision. And it sounds utopian. In many ways, it actually is. The government has pledged that Nusantara will become carbon neutral by 2045, the 100th anniversary of Indonesia's independence. So how will this be achieved? Well, for starters, all buildings would adhere to green certification standards. Cooling systems will rely on district-wide energy networks instead of thousands of inefficient air conditioners. Waste will be sorted and whisked away through automated vacuum pipes, eliminating the need for garbage trucks. And as for electricity, it's
That would
expected
be
to come from a mix of solar, hydroelectric, and waste-to-energy sources, resources that are already being planned and piloted on site. Even the layout of the city is designed with sustainability in mind. Instead of highways slicing through the center, roads will loop and curve around designated green zones. The city will follow a transit-orientated development model, meaning that most residents will live within a 10-minute walk of public transportation. By 2045,
That is amazing because people don't realize until they live in a city which is very walkable. It is difficult for people to understand how important this is. It is so inconvenient. If you even if you want to buy something small, you have to like take your vehicle and go. It is very inconvenient. I really love walkable cities. Like Europe, Western Europe is a very good example. They have many cities that are very walkable. You can go on bicycles. It is so nice.
planners estimate that 80% of all travel within the capital will be done by public transit, by walking, or by cycling. Now, if you're thinking, well, this all sounds incredibly ambitious. Well done, you're right. To date, very few cities, despite years of development, have achieved this level of integration between sustainability, technology, and livability. And Nusantara does not have centuries to figure it out. It's got just 20 years. How Nusantara City will work, the smart city mechanics. Now, Indonesia set an ambitious goal for Nusantara. By 2045, the entire city will operate on 100% renewable energy. This will be achieved through a combination of solar power stations installed on rooftops and building integrated panels, hydropower drawn from Kalimantan's abundant rivers, and waste-to-energy plants that convert household refuse into usable power. All of these sources will be managed by a smart integrated energy grid designed to balance loads across the entire system. Kalimantan isn't connected to Java's massive electricity grid, and Nusantara is designed to be energy independent, a city that powers itself. Another radical shift is the flood management system planned for Nusantara. In Kalimantan, rain doesn't arrive gently. It pours and usually causes flooding, much like in Jakarta. To address this, the engineers behind Nusantara have borrowed a concept that is growing in popularity worldwide: the sponge city. The idea is simple. Instead of fighting water with concrete, let the city absorb it. This means incorporating green zones that soak up excess rainfall, constructing
I
artificial
wish
wetlands.
more city planners understood this, because in Mumbai every road is being converted into concrete roads, but in Mumbai, it rains heavily, just like in Indonesia. It rains very heavily, and city is flooded every single year. So I'm glad that they have thought about the future, Nusantara. They have thought about the future, and they are preparing for it. This is
Blast wells
amazing.
along the streets, creating underground reservoirs to store stormwater and using permeable materials rather than traditional asphalt for pavements. In practice, these innovations would prevent rain from flooding roads and homes. Instead, the water is absorbed into the earth, naturally filtered, and gradually released back into rivers or irrigation systems. But there's more, and it's here where things get real futuristic. Every system in Nusantara, from traffic lights to power grids to sewage pumps, is being built to integrate into a central urban operating platform. This essentially creates a digital twin. In other words, a full-scale virtual replica of Nusantara is maintained and constantly updated with sensor data. You might be thinking, well, why go to all that trouble? We see with the digital twin, planners can simulate power outages, floods, emergency evacuations, and even traffic during a holiday rush. This capability allows officials to test their responses before real problems occur and adapt systems without disrupting everyday life. In progress, where it stands currently. That's one thing to announce a futuristic green capital, it's another to actually build the thing.
Yeah.
So, just how far along are we? Well, as of mid-2025, it is much further along than most people actually think. In August 2024, Indonesia's Independence Day ceremony was held in the new capital. By the end of 2024, roughly 80% of Nusantara's foundational infrastructure had been completed. This includes essential services such as electricity, clean water systems, waste treatment, telecommunications, and even the presidential palace. More than a
That is so impressive. If it was India, I'm sure this project would have been delayed by at least 50 years. I'm not kidding. Every project in India is delayed massively. This is impressive that Indonesia is able to do so much so quickly.
dozen government office buildings were structurally completed by January 2025, and the surrounding highway links, including some sections of the new toll road to Balikpapan, have opened to traffic. The new Nusantara International Airport began handling domestic flights in late 2024. It isn't fully scaled yet, but it does work. In March 2025, the capital authority relocated permanently, and its offices now operate from Nusantara rather than Jakarta. Phase 2 officially started in April this year, 2025, with a budget of 48.8 trillion rupiah, that's over $2.99 billion. This was allocated for 2025 to 2029. The focus is now on building legislative and judicial complexes, enhancing supporting infrastructure, and expanding public access. Piece by piece, the new capital of Indonesia is really coming together. But there's a question we haven't answered yet. What happens now if there's been a change in government? Nusantara was Jokowi's final act as president before he stepped down in 2024. And now, with the new administration under President Prabowo Subianto, there's uncertainty about whether Nusantara will remain a top priority. Prabowo has pledged support, but his vision and Jokowi's haven't always aligned. With Prabowo always floating his idea of free public school meals and military expansion, one must wonder where the resources will come from to build a megacity and uphold that vision. In early 2025, Prabowo launched Danantara, a massive sovereign wealth fund with an initial capital of $20 billion backed by $61 in state assets. The purpose? To consolidate major state-owned enterprises like Bank Mandiri, Pertamina, and PLN and use their dividends to fuel strategic sectors. But here's the kicker. Nusantara isn't on the agenda. The chief investment officer of the fund, Pandu Shajir, confirmed that the fund will focus on AI, food security, water and waste infrastructure, industrial sectors, and digital infrastructure, but not on the new capital city. And the question remains, is it really possible to float big projects like these when even bigger projects are already underway? Will investors be forced to choose between investing in Danantara or Nusantara? Now, we've discussed stories like this on the channel before. Brazil's Brasilia, Egypt's new administrative capital, Nigeria's Abuja. Megaprojects often suffer from a redirection of funds, a difference in political vision, and just a drop in urgency. And that's not the only challenge facing Nusantara capital city. From the beginning, the government has emphasized that Nusantara will be a smart forest city. But critics ask, how do you build a megacity inside a forest without destroying the very ecosystem that you are trying to
That
preserve?
is a good question.
Satellite data and on-site investigations confirm that the region is home to various endangered species, including the Bornean orangutan, the sun bear, the hornbill, and the clouded leopard. So, where do they go when the bulldozers start to raise their homes? How do they survive when concrete is poured over the grounds that they once roamed? Will this megaproject be responsible for the extinction of these species despite its visionary goals of building a forest city? Now, in theory, it is possible to build a city while protecting biodiversity. In practice, however, achieving that balance proves incredibly challenging. Now let's talk about people, the very foundation without which Nusantara cannot move forward, yet it appears they're merely passing through. The indigenous Bala community has called this forest home for generations. Families have lived on this land, fished its rivers, farmed its soil. They've buried their ancestors here, and their sacred stones have stood untouched for centuries. Their lives are deeply rooted in this place, and we must ask, is it acceptable to just uproot them so suddenly? Now, you might argue that this disruption is for the greater good. But what about the immediate costs? Floods now hit harder in Bala communities.
This is always a very difficult and complicated issue because even in India, India is also a democratic country. So, yeah, there are different political parties and different visions. And some people are very socialist, some are capitalist. So, people don't always agree on things. Like, for example, this mega project, Nusantara, it will it will generate so many jobs for construction workers, for engineers. There will be a lot of thousands and thousands of jobs generated, and you will end up having a very well planned capital city, a beautiful capital city, and there are a lot of advantages, obviously. Like, people living there will have a very high standard of living. Everything seems nice, but like this guy brought up, there are some issues, like they are actually cutting down trees, forests, and yeah, replacing it with concrete and buildings, roads. It will damage the environment for sure, and the local communities living there won't be happy. Like in India, whenever there is a mega project, these things come up every time.
Part because the contours of the surrounding hills have been altered by plantation companies. And while Nusantara promises a smart sponge city designed to manage future flooding, what happens to those who already live with the consequences today? Now, the obvious solution here is compensation. But there's a problem. Most people in the community don't have the formal papers to prove land ownership. Without those documents or the money and legal support to fight in court, any compensation offered, even if well-intentioned, is just bound to fall short.
Yeah.
Take Yati Dahlia, for example. One day she had a house, a shop, and a family living close by. The next day, she came home to a notice demanding that she leave in 2 weeks. She lost her house, she lost her shop, and her siblings lost their farmland too. She is just one person among the growing number of community members who have been forced out. She was promised 150 million rupiah, that's roughly $9,200 in compensation, but the money hasn't come, and even if it does, she doubts it will cover the cost of a new home nearby, since land prices have increased significantly since the development began. According to Myrna Aswanati Safitri, the Nusantara Authority's Deputy for Environment and Natural Resources, new regulations are being finalized that aim to recognize areas of historical significance to local communities. She acknowledges that issues such as land disputes are long-running and complex, which offers little reassurance. Nusantara is meant to symbolize progress, yet one must ask whether the opportunity cost associated with this development is being managed fairly. And it's not just the people who are financially constrained. The project itself faces similar challenges. Nusantara was initially estimated to cost around $32 billion, with 20% expected to come from state funding and 80% from private investment. However, that plan has yet to materialize. Although investments totaling roughly $4 billion have been secured from over 40 domestic and international companies, this still represents only a fraction of the full capital necessary to realize the city at scale. And part of the reason is investor caution. While interest is certainly present, confidence remains lacking. Investors want proof that the venture will be a worthy investment and assurance of commercial viability before they commit large sums. As Public Works Minister Basuki Hadimajono bluntly put it, an IRR above 12% will definitely be attractive for both foreign and domestic investors, implying that anything below that threshold could stall the deal entirely. The good news, however, is that early investments are beginning to materialize on the ground. Binabangsa School and Gunadharma University have broken ground on their new campuses in Nusantara, making a shift from talk to construction. Microsoft also announced a $1.7 billion investment in AI and cloud infrastructure in Indonesia, which will contribute to data hubs that will one day anchor Nusantara's tech ecosystem.
That is
Even
good.
better, Malaysian developer Citadel Group, along with other investors, is preparing to break ground on housing, hotel, and office building projects valued at 6.5 trillion rupiah. So, the wheels are turning. What remains uncertain is whether they'll gain enough momentum. While the capital city's promise is undeniably bold, the path ahead relies not just on ambition, but on the ability of this early progress to scale quickly enough to keep the project alive. So, will Nusantara work? Will it evolve into the sustainable, world-class capital its designers have envisioned, or will it fall into the trap of another overambitious mega-project, half-built and ultimately abandoned? Despite the progress made so far, Nusantara faces a long road ahead. If all phases are completed successfully by 2045, Indonesia will boast a fully functioning, sustainable capital situated at the heart of the country, a smart city powered by renewable energy, and a tech hub that attracts significant foreign investment to Kalimantan. Conversely, if funding dries up and the mega project is not fully realized, Nusantara risks becoming a partially built government complex with low occupancy, a financial sinkhole, or even a ghost city, echoing the fate of Myanmar's Naypyidaw or Egypt's new administrative capital. At this moment, Nusantara is both a construction site and a gamble. Yet it's a gamble built on logic. It's bold, it's flawed, expensive, it's risky, but it's also visionary in a way that few cities are allowed to be anymore. As of today, the cranes are still moving. The dream remains alive. Thank you for watching.
That is good to hear. I really want this project to work because it will bring so much good. I know there are negatives about this project, but the positives really outweigh the negatives, in my opinion. Obviously, the locals might think otherwise, because if I was a local living there and if I was asked to move out in 2 weeks and then I was given a compensation which is completely insufficient, I would obviously be angry. I'm also worried about the wildlife as well, but it would have a lot of positives as well, like a completely sustainable city that will eventually be good for the environment and for the people living there. They will have clean air, clean water, and yeah, central cooling systems, and garbage disposal will be much better. The city will look cleaner, greener, and yeah, the capital city, Indonesia can boast that its capital city is 100% powered by renewable energy. Very few countries can do that. So it would have a lot of positives as well. So I hope it works, because already they have cut down forests and everything. Construction is going on. If it doesn't work now, it would be a complete waste of resources, and the land it was made upon, that would be wasted as well. So I hope it works, and the project looks like it is well thought out at least, and it looks extremely beautiful. Even though it is just partially completed, it is still a fraction of the way there, but it looks very beautiful. The buildings, the designs are good. The surrounding, it is a forest city, so it is a great mix of modernity and traditional living. So I'm super excited. They just have 20 more years to complete this mega project, and it is going to be difficult, but Indonesia seems to be keeping up the pace. It's not falling behind, so that is a positive. Let's hope it comes to fruition, and I also hope that you enjoyed my reaction. If you did, make sure to show some support, because this is a completely new channel. I am on a journey to learn more about Indonesia, as I said at the start of this video. And if you want to be a part of this journey and support me, make sure to like this video, subscribe to this channel, so that you can watch even more videos where I react to Indonesian stuff. I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.